Well, the playoffs are continuing for some teams, but for the Philadelphia Eagles, the season is over. But that doesn't mean there's nothing to talk about. What went wrong this past season? Is it time for Donovan to move on? Or do you think they did better than expected? It's your call. Ask, what's next for the Birds?
We all need to do a better job coaching and playing.
I put all of it on me.
Of course, it was disappointing for me.
Now we're talking about who's going to be here, who's not going to be here.
Well, it didn't take long for the debate to get started. No sooner had time run out in the Eagles-Cowboys wild card game that people started to ask, would the Birds be better off without Donovan or Andy next year? But are they the problem? Some would argue that this year's team is lucky to have done what it did at all, and it's because of Andy and McNabb. What do you say? Hi there, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle. Let's talk football this hour, shall we? We've got a great group of guys and gals to do just that, so let's get started right away. Look who's back with us, Rhea Hughes. She's here. She's a member of the morning team on Sports Radio 610 WIP's popular The Morning Show, an old friend of the network here. We're so happy to see her again. Gary Cobb's back with us as well. He's a former NFL star who played for the Eagles and the Cowboys. He, too, is a radio sports personality on Sports Radio 610 WIP. On the web, you can find him at gcom.com. And rounding out the great panel, Mike Silsky. He is the sports columnist for Calkins Media and the author of that great book, Fading Echoes. Hey, everybody, how are you?
Doing great.
Great to have you all here. Congratulations on the baby. I haven't seen you since then. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
You know what? My producer said, Lynn, just introduce them, sit back, have a cup of coffee. So that's what I'm going to do. What do you think about this season? How would you characterize it?
Well, the quarterback said it was outstanding. So I have a little different view from him, surprisingly. But it was one of those seasons where, as much as you had the great win streak, they have become a team, in my estimation, that has become predictable. And just in terms of the front office, now I'm not talking about the players, Donovan excluded, not very likable, just because of a lot of things that went on, off the field. But the predictability of this team, no one was surprised how it ended.
Well, the big thing is I think there were some positives that happened this year. I think it was very discouraging that they lost the way they are because the Cowboys are much better than they are. But the Eagles have shown that Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, LaShawn McCoy, they have a young group of talented players that they can build around and go forward, whether it's with McNabb or with Cobb. Got some talented guys to get the ball to, which is going to be a plus in the future.
Do you agree with Rhea, though, when she says this ending was predictable and the team was predictable?
Well, I didn't know that they would get just dogged by the Cowboys, but I'm not surprised that they lost. I'm just surprised that it happened with the Cowboys. And the Cowboys are way ahead, and that's what the Eagles have got to really look in the mirror because the Cowboys are a much better team now, and they got to make some really tough decisions.
Now, of course, tough decisions, Mike. Right away, people are saying Donovan's got to go. He's too old. He's too slow. He doesn't have his heart in the game. He said it best, I thought. 2 weeks earlier, he was a great hero. Everybody in town was loving him, slapping him on the back. 2 weeks later, get out of Dodge.
Well, I don't know that anybody thinks he's too old. I mean, he's 33, and there are a number of quarterbacks, Kurt Warner, Brett Favre, who are thriving in the NFL at ages well past that. I think the question becomes now, has Donovan hit a wall in his progression? Are we going to see anything different from him or from this team with him here in the future? And I think that's an open question at this point. And I think those last two games, the two Cowboy games, really bring that question to a head because it's not so bad that they lost. I mean, that was predictable. The Cowboys were better, and not only were they better, they were a terrible matchup. They were good in all the areas where the Eagles weren't. But Donovan didn't play well in either game. It would have been different if they lose 31-28 and he comes out and throws 3 touchdown passes and looks great. He looked like a rookie in both games, and that's what's discouraging.
And what's even worse, really, is that they're bad up front.
Yeah.
Right.
The Cowboys are much better up front. Yeah. So my thing is, look, if it was just Donovan, that would be one thing. But, Andy Reid and Tom Heckert get the extension and everything, and they built this team. And Jerry Jones, his team that he built down there is much better. So that's troubling.
What I mean by the predictability of it, nobody was surprised. I mean, G and I have worked at WIP for a long time. And if you had ended the season 5 years ago like this, these people would have marched on the NovaCare complex. And I'm telling you, it would have been ugly. But they weren't that surprised. We didn't get the anger in it. And what I mean by unlikable, I'm talking about the front office. Joe Banner shouldn't speak, shouldn't be the face of the organization. Andy Reid shouldn't. We've all seen his news conferences. Donovan has no connection with the fans. Those guys, the ones that G mentioned, Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, LaShawn McCoy, Leonard Weaver, who is just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
That's why I think, I'm not as big down on Donovan, but that's why I think you have to go to Cobb. I think you just have to usher in a new era where there's not that predictability.
There's another factor in there that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Let's be honest.
Yep.
Not only have they won a championship, but they've gone about it with a group of young, talented players who have grown up here and who have kind of let people in. People have been able to watch these guys grow up, and they, more than the Eagles now in terms of excellence, have become the face of professional sports in Philadelphia.
They didn't tell you they were going to win championships. They actually went out and won one.
Oh, what about it?
But, really, they've got some tough decisions to make. And really, when you get dominated by a team that's in your division, like the Cowboys, really, the Eagles did it to the Cowboys last year. Mm-hmm. Cowboys went out, got rid of T.O., got rid of a few of other guys that were troublemakers, and now they got a team which has got a chance, who knows.
Build for the long haul.
Yeah, they got a quality team, but the Eagles have got to really have that look in the mirror.
All right, we're going to ask our viewers what they think. Of course, as always, we want to have you as part of our discussion. So the way that you can do it now is to email me your thoughts and your opinions. A couple of different ways to do that. First, you answer these questions. What do you think? Is Donovan washed up in Philly, or does he remain the future of the team? Is it fair to blame him for the team's failures, or does the responsibility lie squarely on his shoulders? And what about the other quarterbacks? Would you want to see Kevin Cobb or Michael Vick replace McNabb? Can't wait to hear what the panel has to say about that. But first, we're giving you a chance to log on to csnphilly.com, and then you put in It's Your Call or IYC on the search title. That'll take you to my webpage where you can leave us a comment. You can also email me directly right here at the show. That's TCN_IYC at ComcastNetwork.com. And of course, you can always find us on Facebook, MySpace, or YouTube. I did put the question out there about the quarterback controversy, and my goodness, I thought my Facebook page was going to crash. I know you guys have been talking about this. We've been talking about it on Comcast Sportsnet as well, but we have to go there. I mean, is it fair to immediately look at Donovan and say, okay, maybe, as you said, he's hit the wall here, and we should go with one of the other quarterbacks, or did he do the best he could with the team that he had? You said he had no protection up front. I mean, is it really fair to blame him for the end result?
Well, I look at the big picture, which is the time he's been here. I think he's had his chances there, so I could see them moving on. I look at the Cowboy game, the two Cowboy games. I don't really look at it being all his fault. They can't block the Cowboys. If you get a quality quarterback and you put him under that type of pressure, I don't think there are too many of them that are going to succeed. So I don't look so much at those games. I look at those. Those are very problematic when I look at the whole team. But I think Donovan has had his run. I don't know that he's going to do anything.
In conference championship games. That's what you look at. And I agree with G. That I don't care if you put Montana behind that line on Saturday night. He wasn't going to be successul.
See, I slightly will disagree. I think at some level, after
you can
12,
hopefully disagree.
Yeah, I hope
We're
so.
not going to take it out.
At some point, after 12 years in the NFL, and believe me, I've been as big a Donovan backer as anybody in this city, but at some point after 12 years, you have to deal with a situation like that and rise above it. And if you look at his playoff record and the quarterbacks and the teams that he's beaten, he hasn't beaten a quarterback who's better than he is since he's been here. And again, I'm not saying that he needed to go out there and beat the Cowboys 40-17 and dodge all those blitzers and DeMarcus Ware and Anthony Spencer like he's Gene Kelly and Singing in the Rain. But I am saying that he needed to play better in that situation. There was no sense in either of those games that he was going to go out there and keep the Eagles in the game, let alone win it.
I have to ask this question because I'll tell you, I'm not from Philadelphia, but I try to be a Philly fan whenever it's convenient.
Oh, boy.
It hasn't been convenient a lot. Thank God for the Phillies.
But I just wonder if everybody is so quick to blame him, when things don't go the way they go.
Go to any city. I mean, let me tell you something. Before Eli Manning won a championship in New York, they wanted to run him out of town. So this notion that Philadelphia is a lot harder on the quarterback, go to any city. I mean, they are. They chased, Brett Favre out of Green Bay. I mean, come on.
And that was true.
Oh, yeah, that's really hurt his career.
That was truer at other times than it is now. Everybody knew that the Eagles' defense couldn't stack up against Dallas and really wasn't all that good all year. But there have been other times where the defense has failed them in big games, and it's been put on. I would argue that last year,
Arizona. Yeah.
I would argue that's far more in the defense. That loss in a championship game, far more in the defense than it was on Donovan. But again, he didn't raise his level of play to meet the measure of that moment.